Kim, and welcome to Esoteric's podcast, You Can't Eat the Sunshine, for the week of March 23rd, 2015. Join us this week as we talk with Ansley Davies, Associate Curator for the Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recreation, about the otherworldly Vasquez Rocks Natural Area Park off Highway 14. We'll also visit with Interpreter Jean Ryne of the California State Park System to get the skinny on the effect of the recent heat wave on the spring bloom at the Antelope Valley California Poppy Reserve. So stay tuned.
Can't eat the sunshine, but you can make a beeline for the best of the coastline. La 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 la. Skid Row, Solano Canyon, the Doria, and Pico Union, the long-lost neighborhood called Hermina, between South Pass and Highland Park, Grand Central Park. It is divine. You can't eat the sunshine, but it's a gold mine.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for listening to our podcast, You Can't Eat the Sunshine, for the week of March 23rd, 2015. This week, our two guests will be Ansley Davies. She is Associate Curator with the Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recreation. She met us at Vasquez Rocks Park Interpretive Center. Our second guest, Antelope Valley theme, Interpreter Jean Ryne with the California Department of State Parks. She is in the Mojave sector, and she met us at the Antelope Valley Poppy Reserve, and we talked about the poppies. Kim, you're the Pishka maven and the cat queen, because just two cats just jumped on your head. Do you want to tell us about the Pishka?
They actually just moved sort of in front of my eyes so fast I couldn't quite focus on them. The Pishka, yes, I can talk about Pishkas and cats at the same time. The Pishka's the digital tip jar. It's associated with the podcast. If you like the show, and we hope you do, and you're inclined to support our work, you can make a digital contribution without even leaving the podcast page. It's never obligatory, but always appreciated, and it helps us as we travel around the Southland looking for fascinating people to talk to, for you to listen to. Thanks for your support.
Thank you so much, Kim. So let's just let's move into the closely watched train section. I see first on the list here. Last week you sent me a nice editorial in the Los Angeles Times about a shot fired over the bow from the Los Angeles Times editorial board about future development along Spring Street, along Alameda. There's that large swath of land that the county is sold for development, and a lot of concern about what happened in Blossom Plaza with the Zaha Madre. So I'm very happy. I was very happy to read this. Were you, Kim?
I was. It's really nice to see the paper of record, kind of the only paper we have left, almost, not quite, taking a stand, not just flipping out when some preservation crisis is already past the tipping point, although there was some great editorial commentary about what happened to the Zaha Madre, which Gil Cedillo's office basically handed over to a private foundation to remove from a development site in Chinatown, and the foundation rushed the job with no oversight from archaeologists and destroyed the large section of the historic waterway. Ouch. So it's really nice to see editorial commentary where there isn't an imminent crisis, but recognizing that this is the historic heart of the city. It's very, very old. It's relatively uncharted territory, and almost anything could be underground. And to simply warn the developers, hey, everyone's watching, take it slow, don't destroy anything, let's do this right. And I think as a great comparison, you should look to what's going on in the city of London, where one of the largest archaeological digs in world history is taking place. They're doing some really massive infrastructural work, and they're pulling up extraordinary things because they're spending the money to bring things out of the ground properly. It really does pay off in the long run, and every time we see one of these developments downtown, I'm reminded of the Mammoth, which came out of the ground in the late 19th century around the corner of 5th and Winston, that was just taken up by guys who were digging a hole, and it was really cool, and then I think it was a mammoth anyway. It shattered to bits before they had a chance to take it to a museum. So here's hoping for the best, and I appreciate the pro-preservation tone from the editorial department. Thanks.
Okay, Kim. Mansionization is something we talk about a lot. Several articles in the Times in the last couple weeks, editorial, and then most recently last week, an article proper about the hope of progress on City Council floor to get a motion turned into an ordinance about stopping mansionization. Mansionization is something that happens when someone buys a piece of property and tears down the house and basically pushes the new house they build to the limits of what the building code is. And there are apparently a lot of loopholes that facilitate this. And this would be an ordinance to stop that more to the satisfaction of homeowners.
I'm for it. The sad thing is that it's not just happening on the outskirts of town with vacant lots. It's happening in some really nice neighborhoods, historic neighborhoods, where people are very proud of their homes and really delighted to be living in, say, a 1930s Spanish colonial revival house with vintage tile, and then suddenly someone moves in next door, tears down this really cute little house, which was always a great feature of the block, and puts up something that not only is aesthetically repellent to the people who live next door, but also intrudes upon their privacy, creates shade, kills gardens. It's a pretty antisocial thing, and I think that these loopholes definitely need to be... what do you do with a loophole? I guess you pull it taut.
You close them. You close them by passing legislation that reforms the ordinance, which is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, you know what? Leave the historic houses alone. Someone will want them. Go live in the Deep Valley. There's a lot of empty land out there. Please.
I don't think there's a lot of empty land in the Deep Valley, but that's probably a good direction to go. And also, people, form your HPOZs before it's too late. Okay?
Yeah, Cheviot Hills.
Yeah. Okay.
They tried.
I guess they tried. I don't know. I wasn't there. Kim, Twain's is saved.
Yeah, kind of crummy diner out in the valley, but a lovely Googie structure. My understanding is it used to be a Sambo's. As you know, the Sambo's closed down. A little bit of a racial tinge to the story of Little Black Sambo. But cool building, and it's been there for years, and people in the community liked it, and then it was announced that it was shutting down for renovations late last year, which is almost always a lie. And in this case, it became clear that it was never going to reopen, and people were concerned. Word got out that it was going to become a Sharkey's, which is a chain of fresh fast food Mexican restaurants, and the initial buzz was that the plan was to knock down Twain's and build a, ground-up Sharkey's. There was a really relatively small groundswell of horror over this. I don't think Twain's is quite norms in the grand scheme of things, but people out in NoHo like it. And Sharkey's is really, really a very smart corporation. Their response was to immediately say, we like this building. In fact, we think this building could be a lot more reflective of its vintage heritage. We have some ideas for bringing it back to what it was in its glory days, and look forward to seeing our Googie Sharkies in the future. So, preservation without tears. I like that. Maybe we'll even go and... What do they have at Sharkey's? Maybe we'll eat at a Sharkey's one day. That one.
I'm sure we could eat it at a Sharkey's, Kim. I'm sure they have fish tacos. Okay, don't worry about it. Okay, so Kim, just moving.
Wait. Now we have an interview with Ranger Jean Ryne today, so I have to ask: is the fish sustainably farmed? She always asks.
God bless. God bless Ranger Jean. Who's not a ranger; she's an interpreter, but we call Ranger Jean. Kim, we have one last closely watched train. That computer programmer Ryan build a feed to read construction permits, and it looks like he found a demolition permit, and it looks like and so that empty. Oh, it's not a demo permit. He didn't find a demo permit. He found a construction permit. They're going the parking lot at the it's the southeast corner of 4th and Hill. They want to put up a 33-story building. Okay, that's a parking lot. Things to be concerned about. La Cita.
Wait. No, La Cita is on the northeast corner. Is it on the southeast or the northeast? I think it's the northeast.
It's the northeast. It's the northeast corner. I'm sorry. It's the northeast corner. It's
small lot.
Yeah. It's the lot contiguous. It's the corner lot which La Cita is contiguous to. La Cita is
Wait, it's the lot we like to park in.
Yes, Kim. It's the lot we like. Okay. I'm really not concerned.
Go on.
So La Cita used to be the Claremont Hotel. Of course, you can see the Claremont Hotel in the film The Exiles. The Claremont Hotel used to have a really great Italian deli. It was successively lowered in stories earthquake after earthquake.
Look at La Cita that you were looking at a formerly multi-story 19th century hotel building.
Yeah,
and yet you are.
It's a 5-story late 19th century structure. So La Cita is about to get a new neighbor, and I wish them the best. The intersection of 4th and Hill is rich in history of buildings that aren't there anymore.
Indeed, and of course it's directly opposite Angels Knoll Park, which is one of the great crisis points for the post-CRA era, a piece of land which was supposed to be a high-rise, never was, became sort of de facto open space, and then when Grand Central Market decided to start pushing the new face of the market forward, they were complaining a lot about the sort of heroin trade that existed in that little plaza at the bottom of the park, the unofficial park, and got the whole thing fenced off. So now it is the most elaborate fenced rat enclosure in the city of Los Angeles. A really sad thing. I hope as this development happens, maybe some Quimby funds could get thrown across the street and something good could happen with Angels Knoll, a much beloved piece of open land.
I think the city needs to figure out what's going to happen to Angel's Flight before it solves the Angels Knoll problem, and we're going to leave it at that, Kim. We're gonna leave it to Adele Yellen in her infinite wisdom to figure all of this out. So moving along, we're done with closely watched trains.
Well, that wasn't so painful.
It never is. It never is. You seem to be more at peace with things this week than you sometimes are, and that's good. I imagine you've gotten some more writing done this week. So let's start talking about upcoming events. I know this coming Sunday, the 29th, Nathan Marsack he's going to receive the Visionary of the Year award. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's going to take a minute or two. And he's going to give a lecture on the Richardsonian Romanesque. Mm-hmm. And this will all be at Library Bar at 2 p.m. on Sunday the 29th, 2 to 4. You have to register for this event. It is free.
It's free.
But you have to register. Any more details on that, Kim? You made the award.
Well, I didn't exactly make the award. I mean, I found the trophy, which is a found object, which reflects Nathan's deep and abiding love of culture.
The macabre.
No, I wouldn't say the macabre. It's a very significant piece that probably only Nathan will understand, but everyone will appreciate. I do need to stick the little sticky that says Nathan Marsack Visionary of the Year onto the award and photograph it before it goes into his hands, because we'll never see it again. But I should also mention that in addition to this Lava Sunday Salon on Sunday, you're right, Richard, I have been getting some writing done. On Saturday, I'm debuting my new Hollywood tour, and I've nearly completed the crafting of the narratives, and I'm very excited about every story that we're going to be telling on the Hollywood tour on Saturday. So why not spend the weekend with us? Lava Sunday Salon, brand new tour. It could happen to you.
It will happen to you. It will. Dreams can come true. Looking ahead, we booked the April Sunday Salon, so I think at this point we're officially back. The Lava Sunday Salon is officially back. Last Sunday of the month, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., Library Bar. Library Bar is at 6th and Hope in the shadow of the library in 550 South Hope, former site of Church of the Open Door. Johnny Valenti, one of the co-owners of Acme Bar, is graciously encouraging us to use the space. Andrew All, general manager of Library Bars, graciously coming in on his one day off with America, his sidekick, as bartender, and his whole kitchen crew, to keep us happy and to make their nut for the day. And we just so appreciate it. And we're back. And in April 26th, Sunday, April 26th, we are going to have Joan Job Smith. Joan Job Smith is a poet. She's now a memoirist as well. She's written a memoir called Tales of an Ancient Go-Go Girl. This is a story about redemption, faith, and healing in Los Angeles in the 1960s and 70s. Yeah, it's her journey. It's her journey out of a lot of stuff, a lot of pain and other things, into clarity. And
you make it sound like a self-help book. It's a wild story about go-go dancing in these really rough clubs, observed by a woman who was much, much smarter than anyone else in the room. It's fun. It's exciting. It's sad. It's pathetic. It's beautiful. Joan Job Smith, she's a great writer.
It's also about the Hessian, the Orange County biker gangs. Yeah. So, it's really it's
everything you said is true, but I mean, you make it sound a little bit, kind of boring, and it's not going to be boring.
No, titties and bikers are not boring at all. That's what this is going to be about: titties and Orange County biker gangs. So please come to that, and I'm hoping to lock down our May Lava Sunday Salon too. I will, and when we do, we will get that out. And we're excited, and just because I'm thinking way ahead, but we did post it. We did post our next crime lab. We do the forensic science seminars with Professor Donald Johnson, head of the Criminalistics Department at Cal State Los Angeles, at the Hertzberg Davis Forensic Science Center quarterly. And our next one isn't till August, but it will be Sunday, August 16th, and it will be about, Kim?
It's the serial killer summer session. It will sell out, kids. That's a lot of S's. But 2 serial killer cases told by the forensic investigators who worked them. One of them being the Night Stalker, the other being the 60 Freeway Slayer. 2 fascinating cases. The 60 Freeway Slayer case isn't as well known as Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Serial killer.
But what I'm going to say is it's a really important case because it's a case in which evidence was gathered before DNA was widely admissible in the courtroom. So there was a lag between the crimes, happily, as happy as anything could be in a serial killer case. The perpetrator was incarcerated on a different case, so he wasn't out killing anymore, but this evidence was sitting and waiting for the science to catch up, which is such a great topic to deal with in the teaching forensic science classrooms at the Hertzberg Davis Center on Cal State LA, because new technology is coming into the courtroom all the time. And some of you, do you think we have any serial killer listeners? We might.
I don't know.
Well, some of them out there, if you're listening or not, or if you know a serial killer, you think you're home free, but the technology's catching up with you. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I saw this, I think I've watched every old film on Amazon Prime at this point, so I'm forced to watch it takes me a long time to watch a new film because I've got to read 17 reviews about it and watch the trailer and but very reluctantly I watch new films, and I watched this new film called Nightcrawler. No, it's about this serial. It's about this sociopath who becomes a trauma incident reporter. He films accidents. He just drives around Los Angeles all night and films traffic accidents and crime scenes. He films people dying as they're pulled out of their cars.
Is this for a website that?
No, he sells them. He sells them to a news station.
Oh, okay, same thing.
He sells them to a local news station, and it's very good. And when you said, he's not a serial killer, he is a sociopath, and I guess I was thinking, I was watching this film, and what I was reminded of was that when you get your degree in computer science, you have to take a class at the end.
You're talking about yourself now.
You have to take a class.
I had to take a class.
One has to, and I was one of them.
Okay, there we go.
You take a class about process, about software development, and you talk about process over people, and it was just really interesting. I was watching this film about this sociopath, and he really kind of sounded like a computer programmer, and it was really interesting. So when you said, "Do we have serial killers who are listeners?" I thought, I don't know, but I thought, do we have computer programmers who are sociopaths? That's a more interesting meditation.
And Robert Durst has been arrested for Susan Berman's murder, and I'm wondering if he's going to trot out the Asperger's defense again. Because, he has Asperger's, so, of course, his behavior. Forget it. This isn't a true crime podcast. We have so much else to talk about, like what we did this week.
I get to make a digression every 5 episodes, Kim.
I know.
Okay. I get to make... I really liked watching Nightcrawler. They shot all the establishing shots with a digital camera, so they didn't have to process the film.
This is the film you were telling me
Yes.
about. They shot all these beautiful
The second unit director spent a lot of time just shooting twilight in really beautiful twilight shots, and because it was digital, they didn't have to process the film. You didn't have to develop the film to see what you had. You could just watch it and run it through filters and even tweak it more. And so I really liked that they were able to spend a lot of man hours, but not a lot of they spent a lot of time as humans, but not a lot of money on processing film to get this. So Kim, we're going to get to the interviews. So last week we went up to the Poppy Reserve in Antelope Valley. Interpreter Jean Ryne of California State Parks Department, Mojave Sector, she met us. And on our way up, we met Ansley Davies. Ansley Davies is the Associate Curator for the Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recs, and she curates stuff. The Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recs has a lot of artifacts that she's in charge of, and Vasquez Rocks Interpretive Center houses a number of them, and Vasquez Rocks, which is in the town of Agua Dulce, off Highway 14 on our way to the Poppy Reserve, is a great place to go and see all of this. And we get into all of that. We get into the history of the rocks, the motion picture industry. What?
Did you talk about the rattlesnake?
What rattlesnake?
Oh, see, while you were talking to Ansley, I
was doing something and just concentrating on doing something. You were doing something else.
Well, I was exploring the Interpretive Center there, which has glass cases in the wall with live creatures, representative of some of the things that live out in the hills. And there's a really lovely, very fat, and apparently rather docile, as rattlesnakes go, rattlesnake who lives there. So if you want to see what these, very shy and usually harmless creatures look like before you go out and take your hike and potentially get close to one of them, definitely go into the Interpretive Center. It's very interesting to get that close to a rattlesnake.
The Interpretive Center is great. Everyone that goes out to Vasquez Rock should make it a point to get there while the visitor center is open. Also, if you call ahead, you may be able to meet some of our new avian friends. They have a number of injured raptors there that they keep in cage. They keep safely in cages, and they bring them out for a lot of school groups come, and they get a lot of attention. And Kim, you made a friend with Mr. Peepers, who's a kestrel who actually lives inside the ranger's house at the moment because he's still kind of getting back on his legs after losing one of his eyes in a fight with a red-tailed hawk.
I think it was a Cooper's hawk. Yeah, Mr. Peepers is a lovely, tiny little kestrel who tilts his head because you can only see out of one eye. And he's very socialized, and I guess he's sort of the favorite of the Rangers.
I think he's... Okay, you say he's very socialized. I think he's only been there a couple of weeks, but I think he has a very good disposition, and I think he's going to take to socializing well. He is a wild creature who's living in the ranger's house, and it's going to be great. But you say he's well socialized. I think he's just fortunately has a great disposition, and his handicap is going to make him adapt to his new life very well.
Okay, my point is simply, as soon as we walked into the ranger station, which is not normally open, but it's this old historic house that's part of the structure, National Register. He just was super interested in us, which was noticeable. I mean, I think he was a little bored, and he was happy to have some companions. But there are also some cages and some cabins behind the house.
Where Mr. Peepers eventually will be once he gets socialized.
Right. But you can wander back there now, and you can peep through a hole, and you can see a barn owl, and there's some really beautiful hawks out there. So, there's creatures to see before you take your hike. Stay hydrated.
Great. So I think we screwed up our order, and it's fine. I meant to introduce Jean first because we interviewed her second, but we've just introduced Ansley. Okay, so we're going to talk about Jean and then move into our interview with Ansley. So in the order of our trip, which is the order of this podcast, we left Ansley for her to go back to her office in downtown Los Angeles, and we continued to the Poppy Reserve after getting a very good Chile Rano burrito in town. And we met Jean, Interpreter Jean Ryne, at the Antelope Valley Poppy Reserve. Jean has a really great list. Her email address is on the webpage for this podcast. Please just send her. I've made it so it's a clickable link. So if you touch it on your smartphone, or you click it with your mouse on your computer, it'll open up a mail program for you, and you can just email her. I've obfuscated it so it's not exposing her email to spammers. But so just send her an email, subject line, subscribe me to your list. It's a great list. Jean is really great. I really like Jean. She works. She does a number of things in the Mojave sector. She's over at Red Rock. She's over at Saddle Butte. She doubles up with Peggy, curator of the Antelope Valley Indian Museum, on Saturdays to handle foot traffic over there. She's a busy lady. She's one of my favorite people. And then we had dinner with Idra. Idra Moore is the first curator of the Antelope Valley Indian Museum. She was there through the mid-90s. She came on. She was there for about 15 years. Yeah, she's really great. I love Idra. So we had a great day, and I think this comes out in the podcast because okay. So Kim, I guess we kind of want to set up what happened with the poppies before we go into the interview. I know we talked about it in the interview, but let's just.
Well, no, I want to call out Sandon Totten by name. Sandon tweeted out, "Hey, everybody, the poppies have been fried by the heat. Oopsie." And we were nearly to the Poppy Reserve when I saw this tweet. Sandon from KPCC. So I said, "Oh no, Richard, should we call it off?" And he's like, "No, everyone's waiting for us. We're having dinner with Idra." And we went up, and sure enough, when we got there,
we were literally 7 miles away from the Poppy Reserve when you asked me that ridiculous question, should we not go?
I know. And then I looked up, and what did I see? Hillsides covered with poppies, because, of course, as is always the case, reports of death are greatly exaggerated. There definitely were some losses, but it was mostly on the southern-facing hillsides. The north-facing hillsides had plenty of flowers, not always poppies. You didn't have the wild open fields that you might have had. We did see some frizzled poppies, which is sort of sad. But as Jean will explain, nature is unpredictable. The flowers are delicate, and you never know what's going to happen. It was supposed to be one of the greatest poppy crops in living memory.
We're going to get into all of that, and just so I don't give it all away, Jean will go into great detail as to which loop trail to take to go along to stay to the northern end of the Poppy Reserve, to the northern side. The Poppy Reserve is this hill, it's small mountain, and there'll be a trail that keeps you on the north side. She'll explain it. So go on the north trail, you'll be fine. And so, with that and everything else, let's move into our interview with Ansley. Ansley, I'm here with you. We're at the Vasquez Rocks Interpretive Center in northern Los Angeles County, and I'd like for you introduce yourself properly, and then we'll jump into everything that is here.
Hi, welcome to Vasquez Rocks. I'm Ansley Davies. I'm the Associate Curator for the County of Los Angeles, Department of Parks and Recreation.
Perfect. Great. Tell us thank you for meeting us out here. This is beautiful. Tell us. Well, let's start with, we're in the Interpreter Center. Just sort of get us situated, and then we'll start back with the Tatavium and work our way back to the Interpreter Center.
Yeah, we're right here in the Interpretive Center. This is a new structure for the park, finished in 2013, and this is a great place to start your visit at the park. So you can come and learn about the geology, the Hollywood history, the Tatavium culture, botanical information, and see a map of the whole overview of the park.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start it. Let's roll up our sleeves and start at the beginning with the indigenous peoples that were here, the Tatavium.
Yeah, so some of the earliest people that inhabited this exact vicinity were the Tatavium. When the mission system came in, they absorbed a lot of the Tatavium culture, and then they did intermix with a lot of other tribes that had entered the mission system as well.
Okay, so I'd like to hold off on, you have artifacts of the Tatavium here, but I want to hold off that till the end. So why don't we, moving along chronologically, jump up to the next period of occupation of this site.
Yeah, so a lot of the modern development at the park happened with the Homestead Act. And around 1919, Henry Krieg was one of the first homesteaders in the area, and he got around 250 acres here that included Vasquez Rocks Park. He tried to develop the land with agricultural and farming cattle and things like that, but because it's such an arid environment out here, that just really didn't work out. So then he started to invite people for camping and invite Hollywood to come out here and use it as a filming location, and he would charge 50 cents admission or something like that.
Good, so that's, okay, great. So very entrepreneurial man. And so this brings in the motion picture industry, which I think is really the next phase for this place.
Yeah, the rocks are such a classic, beautiful formation, very striking. It was a great background for all types of film, and I don't recall when the first film was here, but it was definitely at the beginning of Hollywood, and the park is still used on a monthly basis for filming sets for music videos, commercials, TV shows, films. It's a really popular spot. One of the most famous productions you might be aware of is when Captain Kirk from Star Trek came out and fought the Gorn, and that was right here at Vasquez Rocks.
Perfect. So, are we ready to look at artifacts? Have I gotten another milestone? Why don't we walk over and look at some artifacts? Oh.
Yeah, actually, one of the descendants of the first homesteader, Henry Krieg.
Thank you. I forgot the great
was Ray Toney, and Ray Toney built the Ranger residence. We have the Toney residence right here next to the Interpretive Center, and that structure was built by him, and it was said that he used scraps from some of the leftover Hollywood film sets to construct the home.
Good. Okay. I like artifacts. You like curating artifacts. Let's go. Let's go look at some. So we're just in the Interpretive Center, and you've got some great displays here. So let's just remember this is just audio. So before you start talking about these, endeavor to give us some sense of their geometric shape.
Yeah, so we do have quite a collection of prehistoric Native American artifacts on display here, and they're on loan from Natural History Museum, the Autry, and Cal State Northridge. A few of the artifacts here were actually excavated when we built the structure. There is this really beautiful stone bowl that was used for milling food. We do have a milling stone, and there's another round stone sphere that really looks like a gaming piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly round stone sphere, literally. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really neat. No one's really quite sure if it was a gaming piece or not, but we like to speculate. And then it's sitting next to this big flat schist. It's a really very shiny grinding stone, and that is Sierra Pelona schist, and that was mined locally in the mountains just north of us here.
Perfect. And then we've got this flat, this large metate, which is much flatter than this deeply incised one.
Yeah, the stone bowl is really remarkable. That was actually excavated from the footprint of the building, and unfortunately it did crack, but it didn't break into smithereens, and the Natural History Museum was able to repair that for us, and it's just really a treasure.
This is gorgeous. This is about like a foot, 12 inches across, and it's almost completely hollowed out. Yeah, it's gorgeous. And so we're in the Interpreter Center. Before we go, just give us a quick shout out to what we've got here. You've got some great dioramas over here.
Yeah, we have animals on display. There's gopher snakes, tarantula, a rattlesnake, lizards, information about the botanical species that you'll find here in the park. And out front of the Interpretive Center, there's also a wonderful civic art piece called Orit Haj, which means, I believe it's sun and water. It's a Tataviam word, and the art piece itself is meant to represent, on a more human scale, the geological formation of the rocks here.
Perfect. Do you want us to remind us of the Interpreter Center hours, and we'll just sign off? I realized as I said that you probably didn't know the hours off the top of your head, but I just snapped my fingers, so that's my mark. So the hour. Do we have the?
Yeah. Right
oh,
there.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Interpretive Center is open Tuesday through Sunday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Perfect. And so people can come out here, get oriented with the center, and then go into the park to explore.
Yeah, absolutely. You can drive on down or hike on down. There's lots of hiking trails throughout the park, and in addition, part of the Pacific Crest Trail goes through the park.
Ansley, thank you so much. This was fantastic. This is a good way to get people out of the house on the weekend and up here, because this is a beautiful time of year here.
Thanks so much for visiting. Great to have you.
Hello, my name is Brian Kaiser. I'm here today at Greystone Manor in Beverly Hills, and you are listening to You Can't Eat the Sunshine.
You're perfect.
Me down.
Jean,
Yes?
Jean, I'm here with you. We're out at the Poppy Reserve in Lancaster, and I need you to properly introduce yourself first.
Hi, I'm Jean Ryne, and I'm an interpreter for California State Parks.
Perfect. Okay, Jean, we're here in a field. There are not as many poppies as there were yesterday, but we're going to get into that. Do you want to just quickly give us a weather report on the poppies for the middle of March 2015, and then we'll get to the task at hand?
Sure. Well, we usually have our mid-peak. We usually have our peak in mid-April, and our best bloom is the whole month of April. But this year, it looks like we had a very early bloom and a very early peak.
Okay. So I'm noticing we're surrounded by desiccated poppy leaves. I don't want to dwell on this, but it was really hot yesterday, I guess. That's what happened.
It was really hot this whole week.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of relief from the sun on Wednesday, but no rain, and it was not enough.
Okay. So this sort of brings up the task at hand that we agreed to talk about. So let's just jump in and go.
Okay, well, what people don't really realize is there's a lot of variation in what we can expect at the Poppy Reserve, and there is a huge number of various factors we don't even understand yet. We always think that we know what the poppies are going to like, and then we have all these conditions that seem to be predicting a perfect season, and then they prove us wrong. Or we expect it's going to be a terrible season, and then boom, there they are. It's a surprise. And then there's everything in between. Early seasons, unexpectedly. Longer seasons than we were expecting. Shorter, you name it. Every year is different.
Okay. So what are just give us some criteria. So it's December. It's December. It's going to be December this year. What are you looking for when you look ahead to spring 2016? What are some of the things you look for that indicate a strong season coming up?
We have volunteer researchers here who have been trying to answer that question. One of our researchers has actually been doing it for 11 years now. Been recording daily temperatures, soil moisture content, how much rain falls, the frequency of how often it falls, when it started to fall, how long it fell, into the season. Just trying to figure out what all these different factors are. What he's come up with so far is that it's not about just how many inches of rain we got. It's too basic. The best thing that we think the poppies need is an early rain and then continued periodic rainstorms after that. Yeah. Long enough that they're not getting too much water, but short enough that it's sustaining them. So they can get deep roots by starting to germinate early in the season. So when the springtime comes, if we have maybe a late season freeze, they've already established themselves and they can survive it. We get a lot of wind out here in the desert. If they're well established and they've got those deep roots, they can get that moisture and they don't get desiccated. But this year, we have learned the power of the other factor, which is the early heat wave. Yeah. We had this year the highest density of poppy plants growing per square foot than our researcher had seen in 11 years.
Wow.
We were expecting this to be a carpet of poppies. We've had carpets of poppies in 2010, 2008, 2004, other years going back, and he had more poppy plants than those previous years.
Wow.
And we got cooked.
Okay. So life is going on. We're continuing to observe and calculate and predict. Learn. So people are going to come up. So let's get a bit of the standard. This is the standard breakdown what they can expect. Okay, people are going to get in their cars and come on up here. They want to see the poppies. There are poppies here. They're not spectacular, but there are still some poppies. So what can people plan on doing?
Well, I can tell you from the people that I've talked to, it has been so pleasant here. Poppies or no poppies, everybody is just so glad that they're here.
And they're not working in Los Angeles.
And they're not in Los Angeles. We've got beautiful vistas here. There are patches of wildflowers around the valley that you can see. Most of those are on private property, so technically we can't send people out to them. But it's just beautiful views. We've got birds singing. We've got butterflies around. Everyone is just really happy to be here. It's wide open spaces. The grasses are green. It's not that brown, summertime color. It's just really nice out here.
Give us the breakdown on one great hike they can go on. Park in the parking lot, pay their fee, check in at the Interpreter Center, make sure their water bottles are filled. What's one great hike they can do here?
I'm going to say, if they come this week, there's two.
We're going to publish this in 8 days. So you got to think 8 days ahead.
Okay. My prediction, and do not hold me accountable for this, because Mother Nature is the only one in charge here. But my prediction is the best place to be is the North Poppy Loop Trail. If you come in on the parking lot, you just go up to the visitor center and then keep going down the trail. Make your second right. It's a 2-mile loop. At that first part, when you head north on the trail, it goes up and then it goes down. And it's our north-facing slopes that are still good. We don't have fields of poppies, but on those north-facing slopes, we have forget-me-nots, these little teeny tiny white flowers that are everywhere. We still have the gold fields. We don't have carpets of yellow, but we have these gorgeous patches of yellow, and then there's also the orange, the owl's clover.
Yeah.
Purple owl's clover is coming up from these patches of yellow, and it's striking. And then there are scattered poppies around it too. So we've got the orange spots and the yellow and the purple coming up through it. And that is not getting cooked. That's still going to be good for a while because it doesn't have the direct sun on it.
Perfect. So, let's see. You need to remind us about your mailing list, which is a great way to stay looped in. And give us the hours breakdown for the center in your mailing list. And I think you've done it.
Okay. Our visitor center, the Jane Espinero Interpretive Center, is only open in the wildflower season, and it is only open dependent on the wildflowers. So since it looks like we've already passed our peak unknowingly in March, we will likely be going to weekends through April. We don't want to have people show up in April, which is our normal peak month, and not have our wonderful visitor center here and our wonderful docents here to tell them about the reserve. So visitor center hours on weekends is 9 to 5, and on the weekdays, if it's open, is 10 to 4. And we will likely be open weekends through April.
Okay. And the best way for people to stay up on this, 2 ways. There's your mailing list, and I imagine the website.
There's 4 ways,
Okay,
Richard.
give us the 4 ways.
Okay, we have the California State Parks website, www.parks.ca.gov. We also, and I do weekly updates on the wildflower status during the wildflower season on there. You can also follow us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Poppy Reserve.
Oh.
That's reserve with an R. We also have, if you are not computer literate, but you probably are since you're listening to this podcast, we have a wildflower hotline. That's area code 661-724-1180. And of course, my email announcement list. I send out periodically announcements about events and activities in the California State Parks of the Antelope Valley. We have 6 parks, and I don't send it out too much. But anytime we have things coming up, volunteer activities, we want people everywhere to know about it. Yeah, and everybody loves it.
It's a great list. Get on this list. So where do they find this? Obviously, we'll include this link in the webpage for this podcast, but just quickly, where do they find this list?
Well, you can email me directly.
There you go.
My email address is jean.ryne, jean.rhyne, at parks, parks.ca.gov, and I promise I will not sell your email to anybody else.
Okay. Jean, you did it. I want to thank you, and we'll see you again next year.
I hope so, Richard. Thanks for coming out.
My name's Dan Fonte, and we are in Los Angeles 90066, also known as Mar Vista, California. And you're listening to You Can't Eat the Sunshine.
And we're done. We're really done. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to our latest podcast, You Can't Eat the Sunshine, for the week of March 23rd, 2015. This week, our two guests were Ansley Davies. She is Associate Curator for the Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recreation. And we had Jean Ryne. She is an interpreter for the California Department of State Parks Mojave Sector. We met Ansley at Vasquez Rocks Interpretive Center. Jean, we met at the Antelope Valley Poppy Reserve. Poppy Reserve properly is in Lancaster. Vasquez Rocks, strictly speaking, is in the town of Agua Dulce. They're both off Highway 14. We want to hear from you, our listeners at home. Kim, tell us how we can get into that feedback loop with them.
It is so simple. Send us an email at youcan'teatthesunshine@gmail.com or through the contact link at www.esotouric.com. Join us on an esoteric bus adventure. We do give bus tours, or at a lava event hosted by Richard or myself, like the upcoming Lava Sunday Salon or one of the forensic science seminars. Tell us what you think of the podcast in person, by email, or even by posting a review wherever you happen to find it on the web. I think iTunes is probably the most effective place to post a review, because that's where most people seem to get their podcasts these days. And the more reviews we get, especially if you're a regular podcast listener, but you don't have to be, it helps other people find the show. So we are grateful for your feedback. It's always fun to run into a listener in the wild.
Perfect. Okay, Kim, I'm going to turn the piece of paper.
Okay.
Everyone can hear that on mic. I've turned the piece of paper. I'm now pushing the microphone back over to you, and you're going to take us home.
I'm going to tell you about stuff that's coming up on the bus, and there's quite a few bus tours in the immediate future.
We do give bus tours.
That's what we do. We give bus tours almost every Saturday. And this Saturday, it's my newest crime bus tour with a little side dollop of architecture, sort of the mashed potatoes of the tour, if you will, from Richard. It's called Hollywood, with an exclamation point. And if you want murder, beautiful buildings, strange people, bizarre stories, haunting tales to keep you up at night, you want to get on the Hollywood, with an exclamation point, bus. Because we're almost sold out, and I know it's going to be a lot of fun. And the first tour is always the sweetest. You know, they grow, they change. First tour is sweet. On April the 11th, it's Hotel Horrors and Main Street Vice, a tour about downtown Los Angeles when it really did have life. Not just manufactured life, but real, deep, abiding, terrible, horrible, mysterious, strange, delightful life. Like me girls hustling men in subterranean taverns, and beautiful strippers doing a new show every week. Am I right? And serial killers stalking women in the low-rent hotels. And hotels, oh, you'll see hotels. We'll take you to some of the most beautiful interiors that still survive of late 19th century, early 20th century Los Angeles. A very fun tour, and rather a haunting and heartbreaking tour. It also includes freak shows on Main Street. Yes, it's true. Our most popular crime bus tour is coming up again on April the 18th. That's The Real Black Dahlia, a tour that asks not who killed Beth Short. We'll be talking about that a little bit, but why should we care as we walk in her footsteps and look into the weird world of the intersection between the newspaper media and police investigations in 1947 Los Angeles. Echo Park Book of the Dead is a new crime bus tour in that it's only our second excursion. It goes on April the 25th, and it's murder, horror, and sadness, and beautiful architecture in the streetcar suburbs to the immediate west of downtown Los Angeles, Echo Park, Elysian Park, a little bit of Silver Lake. You'll love it. Get on the bus. Then we get on to a literary tip. May the 2nd, it's Charles Bukowski's Los Angeles, Haunts of a Dirty Old Man, a tour that takes you from old Skid Row and downtown L.A. through Crown Hill and East Hollywood, and follows the path as Charles Bukowski, alcoholic, wannabe poet, becomes Charles Bukowski, world-renowned poet, and gives up his postal worker's job right before he got fired at the age of 50, and remakes himself as an internationally acclaimed literary figure and mentor for Joan Jump Smith, who's giving a Lava Sunday Salon the week before. I actually take we've known Joan several years now, and I've interviewed her a number of times. We've had some really long dinners with her and her husband Fred, and I've decided that it's the other way around. Joan Job Smith mentored Charles Bukowski. I'm going to just leave that there, because he's probably right. That's May the 2nd. And we end up in East Hollywood at Bukowski Court, a historic cultural landmark that we had a little bit to do with the landmarking of, with a team of people who wanted to see it saved. May the 9th, it's Raymond Chandler's Los Angeles, a tour of downtown and Hollywood locations from the pre-literary life of Raymond Chandler, drunken misfit oil man, to the Hollywood screenwriting Raymond Chandler of Paramount Studios days. On May the 16th, it's our once-a-year bus adventure, Tom Waits Los Angeles, crawling down Cahuenga, co-hosted, hosted by David Smay, my longtime compatriot and co-writer on several music anthologies, with a little bit of help from me. I mean, I get up a time or two, but it's David's tour. It's so much fun.
Two passengers on our West Adams tour told me they bought tickets for the Waits tour.
Fantastic. And maybe you will too. If you love Tom Waits, or you just want to see a different view of musical history in Los Angeles in the 70s, you want to get on that bus, May the 16th. Eastside Babylon is May the 30th. It's a crime bus tour on the east side of the river, Montebello, Boyle Heights, East LA, City of Commerce. Really grim stories. You want the dark stuff, stories you've never heard before, but that will really give you the nightmares? get on East Side Babylon. A very occasional crime bus tour coming up on June 20th. Ooh, we got a few weeks off. Oh, I'm going to plan my vacation now.
We have 2 weeks off. I know you look at that and you think, oh my God, we have 3 weeks off. No, it's 2 weeks because it's 2 weeks off.
All right. Anyway, Blood and Dumplings, also on the east side of the river, and there's a dumpling snack, and it's a true crime tour about just the crazy, crazy stuff that goes on in the San Gabriel Valley. You won't believe how crazy the San Gabriel Valley used to be. And wrapping it up, we have Weird West Adams on June the 27th.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is a crime bus tour about West Adams. And that is the end of my list.
Thank you, Kim. Yeah, what happens is we have Memorial Day, and we don't give tours on Memorial Day weekend, and then I scheduled the next weekend off so you and I could go somewhere, because it's easier to go somewhere if we have 2 weeks off in a row, we go somewhere, historically. So I do that occasionally, so we get out of town.
Do you have a passport?
No, we're not going out of the country. We're not.
Because you want to see America first.
We're not traveling to Europe anytime soon. Okay, I'm done going to Europe. I love Europe. It's not a Europe I grew up going to, and I'm not interested in giving Catholic priests money every time I walk into a church.
Right.
Okay, just honestly, I'm not interested in that. I could go on and on and on, but I will leave it with that. I'm not interested in giving Catholic priests money every time I walk into a 11th century church in northern Italy.
Well, it is a problem if you want to go into 50 churches in a day. That adds up.
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll go to Bakersfield in the summer.
We're gonna go to Milwaukee, and
We're going to Milwaukee? Cool.
So I want to thank everyone for listening. Okay, I want to encourage you to continue to listen, because of course, at this point, I'm not sure if I know how to do anything other than produce a podcast once a week.
You plan vacations to Milwaukee, apparently.
And I want to remind you,
you can't eat the sunshine.
You can't eat the sunshine, but you can make a beeline for the best of the coastline. La 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 la. Skid Row, Solano Canyon, the Doria, and Pico Union, the long lost neighborhood called Hermina between